What'd you bring up here for?
The December meeting of the Wise County School Board will please come to order. And let us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. And we had a death recently, Dr. Dick Davidson. I don't think that he worked for the county exactly, but he did serve on the board for a number of years as a member of his family. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And please be seated. And Mrs. Durham, would you please perform the roll call, please?
Ms. Kern,
Here.
Dr. Raymond,
Here.
Ms. Williams, Ms. Jett,
Here.
Mr. Short,
Here.
Mr. Graham,
Here.
Mr. Bay,
Here.
Mr. Greer.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Give it to Mark. Those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, let it be known by aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries and the agenda is approved. Dr. Mullins, school highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I want to share with you tonight that the VDOE recently announced a little over $12 million in school security grants to protect their students and faculty, visitors, and 489 schools and 102 different school divisions. And of course, these grants will pay for video monitoring systems, door locks, voice, video internal communication systems, school bus interior cameras. There's just a great multitude of things that you can do with those in terms of school safety upgrades. And I certainly want to congratulate Mr. Kaiser and his staff on a successful grant application, and it enabled us, we received almost $100,000, and that we'll be able to purchase or replace or upgrade our security systems in our schools. So we are indeed grateful for that, and it will certainly be put to good use. Second thing I want to share with you tonight, just to remind everyone, is that the Region 7 Legislative Virtual Meeting will be tomorrow evening at 6:30. Of course, I think Ms. Durham gave you a sheet maybe this evening with information you can use to log on, but if it would be easier, I sent you, I think, an email on maybe December the 1st. You could just go to that email and click on that link, and you can enter into that meeting tomorrow evening, 6:30, if you have the opportunity to join. And for our next highlight, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Ms. Kern will be presenting some information to you. So, Ms. Kern.
Yes. December the 2nd was the National Special Education Day, and it commemorates the anniversary of the nation's first federal special education law, the IDEA, we called it, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And this was signed into law way back in December the 2nd, 1972. There's a few of us around here who do remember when that happened. The landmark civil rights measure actually guaranteed a free, appropriate public education to every single child, regardless of the disability, on an equal basis with other children. And the reason that that's so special, we take that for granted now, but at that time it wasn't. for granted for anyone. And it also advanced Americans' understanding of disabilities by bringing children and adults with disabilities out of the shadows. And what I want to say about that is, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I want to tell you what happened in Wise County. In Wise County, we didn't have a lot of money, and so therefore, we didn't know any different. We didn't know that people in the Fertile Crescent, out in the Virginia Beach area, or up around the DC area, or in Richmond area, or these other areas that had lots more money than we did. We didn't know that they were taking all their special ed people, kids and adults, and putting them in special schools. We didn't know that as soon as they identified someone as really special or having a disability or needing to be out of a classroom, for some whatever reason that they felt like, they put them aside into special classrooms and sometimes into whole special schools. We didn't realize that because we couldn't afford to do that. And so here in Wise County, we were already educating everybody together. And yes, we did have a few classrooms where we would pull a few kids out that had maybe some really special needs. And we had, I think over at St. Paul, we had maybe a school over there or classrooms over there where we had some kids with some really, really special needs. But at the same time, we were still mixing all of our kids together because that's the only thing that we knew what to do. So when this law came into effect, there were a bunch of people in Wise County that kind of pulled together and sort of invented, before all these people got all of the laws written out as to how this was going to happen. You know what it's like when you pass a federal law, then it's 2 or 3 years before they say this is how you get everything done. Well, we didn't wait all that time. We just kind of got together and we said, okay, well, let's do this for our kids and let's do this for our kids. And we were already doing inclusion before it was a name, before we knew what that was. We were the lighthouse community in Virginia. People, our supervisors, would go to meetings in other parts of the state and they would say, what do you mean you're educating special students in the regular classrooms? And we would say, what do you mean you're educating them in a school all by themselves? You know, because there's now a law that says you can't do that. And we've always educated them with everybody else. So those of us who remember those early days, we know that this is something that special students have always been a part of Wise County schools and have always been a part of our regular education programs. And we have just continued to further enhance that as the years have gone on. So what we want to do is we want to join the Department of Special Education and Student Services in celebrating the hard work, the passion, and the dedication of all special education teachers, administrators, and staff, and the work that they do day in and day out in serving students with disabilities and their families. This includes kids who have ADHD, that you may or may not know that they have it. It includes kids with diabetes, kids with seizures, or it may include our kids with autism. It may include kids with Down syndrome, which we have very few of in Wise County now. But it may include a lot of different kind of students that you would not even believe that this law really does include, and it includes them for all different types of reasons. And we don't care because we educate them anyway. And this is Wise County because that's who we are, and that's who we've always been, even before the law. So thank you, special education. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for your whole staff. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Wise County, for caring.
Mr. Chair, that's all the highlights we have.
Thank you, sir. And Donese, thank you for being such a good advocate for our special needs population. We appreciate it. Okay, and item number 6, consent items. Is there a motion to approve the consent items as presented?
So move.
And is there a second?
My second.
Those in favor of approving the consent items as presented, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries and the consent items are approved. Let's go on to item number 7. Are there any additions or deletions or changes to be made to the minutes? And this refers to the minutes of our meeting on November 10th. Hearing no changes, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So move.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries, and the minutes of the last meeting have been approved. Education reports, Dr. Mullins.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, we have with us tonight Mr. Paul Clark, who will share news and information with us from the WCEA. Mr. Clark.
Good evening. I hope all of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, since I hadn't seen you since last month. And before I leave, Merry Christmas to you. The growing concern, as you know, we have the pandemic that we've been dealing with since March. I get further emails and conversations with educators and parents in the county of, you all have done such a wonderful job of setting up a virtual environment for children who want to stay home for virtual. Why are we not going virtual? And with all of our counties around us, except for Norton and Wise County, staying out of virtual. And I can't answer that question. So that's, they say they send emails and they don't get any response to that. We do have the technology. Our technology team in Wise County, I think, has set us up to provide that. I'm all for in-person teaching. The scare is, you know, we continue to see on television the numbers in our area in Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee growing rapidly. It is real. There's some kind of germ out there. We don't know what it is. Concerns of, you know, the health department, not our school system, taking one class and having them quarantined, and at another school, a teacher is sick and their class is not quarantined. That's just a concern that we have. That's a concern that the teachers and the public are hearing. It's not that you're being inconsistent. I think it's the health department. And we need to get the health department to work with us to say, okay, if you have a teacher at Pound who has been diagnosed with COVID and their whole class is quarantined, it should be over the whole county, same way. But that's not happening. So that is the scare. The scare is real. I hope we can make it to Christmas. This is not going to go away. We're just going to have to deal with it. It's an illness. Hopefully we'll get some kind of vaccine that'll help us. But think about using the virtual. Teachers are really concerned. I mean, we know testing's coming up some kind. I don't know how midterm finals are going. that, I can't even wrap my head around that. The snow delays are good. Thanks for the hazard money that you voted to give us. That was a plus, you know. People are scared, and I know you are too, or you wouldn't be here with masks on, or you wouldn't be social distancing. You know, I've said this, and I keep reiterating it every month, and it's like a broken record. I feel the pain with you, because I don't know how to deal with this. We just follow the rules that is passed down from the government down to us, and we deal with it the best we can. And you know, we get letters from Dr. Mullins. He's been, I think, trying to be as transparent as he can. He reports. We get reports saying this is here and this is here. It's not that you're hiding anything. Just consider utilizing. And like I said, I'm an in-person person. I think you cannot replace in-person teaching with virtual. But just consider what we can do. If other counties are counting days and using virtual, just think about it. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
And that's all of our educational reports, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. It's time now for public comments. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Then, seeing no one, public comments will be closed. Discussion, item number 10. 10.1, response to public comment. There was none the last time to respond to. Is that correct? Okay. And 10.2, COVID update, Dr. Mullins.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'd like at this time to share some information with you in regards to regional and local health metrics, as well as some additional information from the Lennowisco Health District, the CDC, and the Virginia Department of Health. I've prepared just a few slides. It's a very brief presentation, but I will start by sort of going back to where we've come from. Of course, on August 20th, we began the school year in an all virtual environment based on the best available information we had at that time, and we moved to a 4-day week in-person model on September the 28th, and with our families having the option of attending in person or receiving all virtual instruction. We've just completed our 10th week of utilizing this model. And certainly, as Mr. Clark pointed out, we have notified and let everyone know when we've had any positive case in our student population or our staff members. And, you know, based upon the contact tracing, we've not had confirmed school-based transmission. We also have had both students and staff members who have been quarantined due to contact tracing since we started back in an in-person learning model. Certainly we're grateful that our numbers are much lower than those we're seeing in our communities, and I really think our ability to mitigate continues to be the crucial factor in allowing our schools to remain open and our caseloads being much lower than what we're seeing in the general public. As I've shared with you before, and I think Dr. Cantrell, who I have the greatest respect for, who's done a marvelous job and has a difficult job, she has shared for some time with all of those in her health district. We meet with her weekly that from a public health perspective, it would be her recommendation, at least for the next 2 weeks, to move to all virtual instruction and postponing all school activities. She also shared with us that certainly she understands the burden on families and the great concern about those children from households less equipped or inclined to provide support for their child's virtual education, and realizes that these decisions are extremely difficult. Just sort of as we have made our way through this year. As you can see, back on April 13th, our 7-day case average in Wise County was 2. August 11th was 9. The 25th of August was 8. November the 7th was 23. November the 12th was 27. And yesterday it was 19. And so we certainly have seen an uptick in cases. This past week, they went down just a little bit. But one of the things that I think we've done from the very beginning, and I think we will continue to have to do, is there's a public health perspective, certainly, and then we are a part of that public health equation. There's no question about it. We want to do our part in promoting good public health, but we also are charged with educating students, trying to meet their social emotional needs. I'm not going to read through each of these bullets, but it talks about children's emotional and mental health suffering due to the social distancing and total closures, reduced detection of child abuse. We as mandatory reporters, every year in our district, we certainly contact those that in authority when we feel or suspect there's been neglect or abuse in a home. Nutritional insecurity. Brandy and her staff with a whole host of volunteers have fed students since last April. There's something about a hot meal and being able to sit at least at a distance from other students. But even with our best efforts, there's times when families fail to either pick up or be at their stops for food, and so we know that we miss some when we're trying to feed them door to door and have them pick it up at our schools. We've had some parents, quite frankly, several parents call us about, I am the sole provider in my household. I cannot stay home with my children. I don't have family, and so the child care piece of that is extremely important, and it's something that folks struggle with. And then certainly last but not least, the lack of access to essential services. We have a number of children with very specific physical and mental needs, and when they're home, these specialized supports are nearly impossible, if not impossible, to provide. And so in looking at that and the loss of learning, and also certainly continuing to keep at the forefront of everything we do, the health and safety of our students, you know, taking all of these factors and arriving at a decision that's good for our students, as Dr. Cantrell pointed out, is a very difficult thing to do. It's a challenge, and I think this board has made very sound decisions based on the information we've had at a given time. Just a few things from the CDC. They mentioned in their guidance documents that these decisions, as I just pointed out, based upon the most available data that we have, levels of community transmission and capacity to implement appropriate mitigation, I've mentioned those things. Other aspects of student risk associated in the well-being that arise when schools are not open for in-person classes. And I've talked about some of those, the social emotional piece, the mental health, and those critical services. I want to go through just 3 or 4 slides in talking about the continuum of risk. Certainly the lowest risk thing we can do is to have no students in our buildings. We only offer virtual instruction. We have no activities in our buildings, no events, no school-based events of any kind. Certainly that's the lowest risk that we could offer. Some risk, the hybrid learning model, as we had talked about back in the summer when we were making some decisions. You know, the A-B, some students there on Monday, Tuesday, a day of deep cleaning, then a different group Thursday, Friday. And certainly the technology piece of that and our teachers working through trying to provide instruction to those in-house those at home and then switching to a different set of students later in the week certainly had its challenges, but I must brag on our technology department and our teachers. They stepped forward and certainly worked through a lot of bugs and things that we initially had. But also, in that hybrid learning model, the small in-person classes, activities, and events with very limited numbers of people, keeping those students in their own cohort, alternating schedule, as I said, the A, B, and staggered schedules that are applied very rigorously. Medium risk, the hybrid learning model, where most students are in person. Some students participate in learning, virtual learning, but most are in-house. A little larger in-person classes, a few more individuals involved in activities and events, but continuing to cohort, alternate schedules and staggered schedules are applied with some exceptions. A little higher risk, students and teachers engage in in-person only learning activities and events. So that's what we offer, is in person. Students mix minimally between classes and activities, but they are allowed to interact and commingle. Students and teachers sharing the same equipment, same laptops, same lab equipment, and those types of things, certainly at a much higher risk. And then highest, students are free to mix and mingle between classes and interact during activities. Students and teachers freely sharing all objects, and only the in-person learning model is available. You know, we have an in-person learning model with the option for parents and our students and their families to choose that virtual piece. As of today, we have 2,205 students that are all virtual. And even though we're not operating in a hybrid model, you know, that's about 44% of our students are in all virtual learning. And we've lost some kids to the virtual learning in the last couple of weeks as families have made those decisions. And so we already were able to have adequate spacing, and as some of these students have moved to the all virtual learning model, you know, we have fewer students in many of our classes today. But we've continued, and our principals, drag on them, our teachers, our parents who've worked with our students and tried to inform them on best practices. You know, educating our staff and families about when their children should stay home and when they can return to school. We've continued to, you know, preach the hand hygiene and the respiratory etiquette, signage and, you know, this direction and line up here and stay this distance. The cleaning and disinfecting, you know, the non-sharing of objects. We've worked with Train to increase our air filtration and ventilation systems to the maximum amount that we can. We've certainly made food service modifications in our cafeterias and in our serving lines. We have some students that are actually eating in their rooms. We've made adjustments in transportation, and we've done a ton of staff and student training. One thing I will point out is I was talking with Joyce today during a meeting we had with her, and you know, one of the things that we have seen is we would have already been expecting to see fairly significant totals of strep and flu by this time, and that has been extremely limited. And I think the mask, the sanitizing, the disinfecting, and the not, you know, touching, and has made a tremendous difference in that regard. I know this is difficult to read, and I'm not going to read this entire chart, but I have four pieces of information on this chart. Of course, the first being the school divisions, and this is all 19 divisions in Region 7. The second piece of information is the 7-day burden or cases per 100,000 people. And this was the numbers today that I pulled from the VDH website. At this time, Wise is the lowest in Region 7 with 53.4 cases per 100,000. As you can see it in Bland, 233.8, Dickinson, 147.5, Galax, 124.6. So in that regard, even though, and certainly I want to make this point, even though our entire region is in high transmission and we're all in the red, we are, in terms of cases per 100,000, the lowest in Region 7. Our 7-day average percent positivity, we're at 20.2. I think that is the 4th lowest total in Region 7. I see Giles and Tazewell and Radford, I think, are lower in terms of positivity. And then the third piece of information is the instructional model that those divisions are utilizing. And as you can see, and Mr. Clark pointed this out earlier, there have been a number of divisions that have moved to the all-virtual piece. And interacting with them, certainly levels of community spread is a factor, but one of the things that they have shared is in many of these instances, they've simply not had the staff to provide the services that's needed in a given building or in their division, and so that has played a role in their decision-making. But as you can see, at this time, Wise, Norton, Grayson, Dickinson continues to be, they're in hybrid, but they offer, the A/B 2 days a week for different groups of students. Pulaski and Bristol, and then the others you see are virtual. On the far right is the VHSL. That's just who is offering VHSL activities, and that is in the 4th column. And as you can see, some are not, most are at this time. And so, the decision-making process, the one thing that we have shared from the very outset and continues to be our guiding star is the health and safety of our students and our employees. That has been our highest priority. And when we look at that and then try to factor in the other impacts to all virtual or hybrid or, there's, as I pointed out earlier, there are lots of different factors that we at least have to consider. I would tell you that the health and safety is our biggest priority, but as a school division that is charged with educating students, we certainly have to factor in some things other than public health, but that is the driving factor. The mental and physical health concerns associated with both in-person and all virtual instructional models. As I said, no confirmed school transmissions. Our families and continue to have the all virtual option if they feel like that is the best decision for them. And I think all of you have seen this recently on the news, Dr. Fauci, Governor Northam, and others talking about that. Now that we've gotten into this, we are seeing more and more that school-based transmission is not really one of our big problems. Now, other poor decisions are certainly having an impact, but the school-based transmissions not being well up the list of problematic things. So, again, it's not an easy one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter type decision-making process. So in talking with our principals, central office staff, I called all of our principals last week. Our directors interact with our principals multiple times per day, and I often talk to many of them. But they feel like that it's in the best interest of our students, those that choose to be with us, to continue in person until we break for the Christmas holiday. We've demonstrated that we can offer instruction even when our health metrics have really not been very good in our communities. We currently don't have staffing issues, and as I've shared with you, with our board before, in the event that we have a building or group of buildings or across the division that we don't have staff to provide high-level services, I will share that with the board and recommend to you that we simply close that building, those buildings, those community, buildings in a community, at any time we encountered that situation. Our teachers and technology department did a wonderful job of making all of the adjustments and working through the little bugs during our all virtual instruction, but student participation was not good. The level of engagement was not good at all. We had, and I want to pat them on the back, we had a number of students who did very well, had a lot of support, but we had a tremendous number that we found it very difficult to engage with. For our students to remain safe over the next 2 weeks, if we were in an all virtual setting, they would need to isolate at home under adequate supervision. For many, that probably will not happen. When we were all virtual, we saw many of our students, employees, that were out and about. And so, again, families continue, if they make the choice to utilize all virtual, that is an option to them. But again, I think it is about balancing all of the risk factors. And again, every decision we've made concerning COVID-related educational services have been difficult. There is no place that when we arrive at a decision where we said, well, this is the only decision we possibly could make. It's always been a weighty issue since April. But I do think we've done a good job. Our staff and administrators, our parents have been tremendous in making the adjustments that we've needed to make up to this point. So that's just an overview of where we are, how things have been going, and as Mr. Clark pointed out, each day is its own specific situation. And when we arrive each morning, we begin the process for that day. Are we staff-wise, are we good? Do we have everything in place we need to have a good instructional day? Has someone called and reported that they're being tested? Is there someone called that may have to be in quarantine? That's how we spend every day, and we Zoom sometimes multiple times per day, and we include Joyce, and our nurses have been tremendous, and as I say, we meet with Dr. Cantrell once each week. We meet as a region every week, and so gathering and processing information is something that we do pretty much all day, every day. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have or any comments, certainly at this time, Mr. Chair.
You mentioned that the schools that have gone virtual, some of them have done so not because of the spread, but because they didn't have the staffing to take care of the children at school. Is that correct?
Right.
Have we ever gotten close to where we didn't have enough subs?
We have had one school in particular we've had some concern about on a couple of occasions. Mm-hmm. Another one, there was one day that we felt like, just with the information we'd received the night before, that we may have a difficult time, but we've been able to get subs and utilize those people already in that building, repurposed them, made some shifts, and so far it's worked fine. But again, most of those that when we meet with, and most of those divisions, there are many that are having a real difficult time just with the staff, trying to keep the numbers they need to provide services.
Yes, thank you.
Is our staff members involved in the numbers on our percentages? Are they the ones that get the COVID? Are they in? Do you count those people in the numbers?
Yes, it would be every confirmed case that the health department has would be in those percentages.
And Dr. Cantrell suggested that I think you said Dr. Cantrell suggested that we close?
that we go all virtual until Christmas, and that's what she told everybody in the Lennowisco Health District.
I mean, we don't, they're not doing, contact tracing now, are they?
They are continuing to, and I will tell you.
I
just give
thought
you
I read that they weren't doing that anymore.
that was one of the conversations we had on Thursday, was that we've gotten to a point where we're not going to do that. And so we immediately, of course, Joyce was in that call, and we immediately got a meeting together with our nurses, with Joyce, with our central office staff, and the very next day, when Joyce called to get some follow-up information, she said, well, that's not exactly so. And so the last thing that Joyce heard today was they were taking those CDC guidelines, our health department, and was going to create a document for us. What I think we would see, Mr. Graham, if anything, of course, up to this point, they have done all the contact tracing. Now, what normally happens is they will call a school and say, student A has tested positive. We need the seating chart for that room, and student A also rides bus 112. We need the seating chart for that bus. And we collect that information and provide it to them. And at that point, they make decisions on, will anyone be required to quarantine? No one, this individual. And so what we expect, if anything, is all of that to unfold just as I described it, but maybe it would get to the place where Joyce would then make the decisions after looking at the seating chart in a room, the seating charts on a bus, and say, these individuals need to be quarantined, and then Joyce would send those letters home, or Joyce and the nurses would send those letters home and make those contacts. And so that's what we feel will be the biggest change, but the process itself will be what we've been doing.
Do other board members have a question? Okay, hearing none, let's go to item 10.3, Region 7 Virtual Academy. Dr. Mullins.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I mentioned to you, I think of the last time we were together in our meeting, about the possibility of the Region 7 group creating a virtual academy. And of course, you had the opportunity, if you were able to log in to a meeting we had for board members, central office staff. Our office staff has been involved in multiple meetings on the academy, and actually Matt Hurt, one of the individuals that's really involved and of course is in charge of the CIP program that is sort of the driving agent for this, certainly has come by and we have spoken to him in person. But after talking with our administrators and our central office staff and discussing what we feel is very good about this and very positive, we've also talked about some of those things that right now still concern us a little bit. One of those being having a number of our children and their SOL scores, we being responsible for those scores, but those scores or those students being in teachers' classes outside of our division. In other words, if we had X number of students in the academy, they would be assigned to a group of teachers, and I'm sure they'd be wonderful teachers. But if they did not perform well, of course, we would own those scores, even though we weren't providing the instruction. One of the other issues, at least at this time, we feel like, is that the number of seats available to us would be very limited. And the initial cost to become part of the virtual academy is $10,000. And with a very limited number of seats and some other questions that our administrators have had and certainly our central office staff, my recommendation is, at least at this time, we not enter into that, the academy, with the idea being, let's see what it is, what it looks like, what it could be, and how many, if we get to a place where we may have several slots, and we could utilize it for children across a lot of spectrums. The one thing that we've said during all of our meetings, Region 7 meetings, is if you do not choose to become part of it now, you can choose to do so at any time you wish for the same buy-in cost. So we feel like that waiting to see what is going to unfold, what it looks like, what we feel are some of the problems, and are those problems, are they being addressed? And if it gets to that place where we may see it being a real benefit to us, at that time we simply pay our fee, join the academy, and have them assign us some seats. But there's just, and that's the case with anything new, there always seem like more questions than there are answers. But we just feel like for us at this time, and we've met with our principals on this on a couple of occasions, we just don't have the level of comfort where we want to jump in now.
Well, Dr. Mullins, I agree with you. I watched that Region 7 when it came on. I agree with your recommendation there. Because as I watched that, we brought a lot of questions I questioned a little bit, unknown questions.
Right.
And of course, $10,000 is only the beginning of it.
Yes.
And that's just to get into it, and then you don't know once we start hiring principals and all the teachers and everything. The money is going to cost quite a bit for these schools. So we really don't know what the cost will be for us, do we?
Right. Well, it would be a cost per student after the initial buy-in cost, and as you say, there will be an administrator, there will be a counselor, and then teachers, and so.
Quite a few teachers, really, according to depending on the number of students you get.
And I think that they're working on it, and there's some good people that are working on it, but we have some questions about the special needs piece. Would that be something that the academy would be able to deliver in certain circumstances? And so it's not, we're going to be supportive and certainly continue to be part of all the conversations, and at some point it may make a great deal of sense for us to jump in, but it just doesn't seem like this is the time. It's sort of where we're at right now.
I think it's best to bide our time and be cautious and look at the platform they set up.
We'd certainly be a little more apprehensive if this was the only time you could join, and you had to wait 36 months or whatever before you could apply for membership. But it's going to be open once it starts for anyone to join at any time. So we feel like maybe that would be best. We take a look and see what it's like. And
There's a lot of things to work out too before you even get to that point.
yes.
Any other comments or questions concerning the virtual academy? If not, let's go to 10.4, the 10-point grading scale. Dr. Mullins.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have discussed the possibility of implementing a 10-point grading scale for some time. When I met with the counselors 5 to 6 years ago, this would be part of our discussion with them. We've talked about it in our central office, but we've just never really gotten to that place where we felt like was a good time to at least have a conversation. But our principals and our counselors are very, very favorable, and our school division currently uses, as you can see, the current scale is on the left. That's what we've used for computing grades for quite some time. On the right is the 10-point scale, which at this time most all colleges use this 10-point scale. Many school divisions in Region 7 have moved to the 10-point scale. And some of the reasons that we, and some of the information that we've gathered from our counselors and administrators, it aligns with the grading scale used by most colleges and universities, and they feel, and we feel, that it could level the playing field between our students and students from other divisions when it comes to scholarship opportunities, allow students to be more competitive when applying to colleges, increase the overall academic scholarship awards that our students could possibly qualify for, and will give our own division consistency, because we currently utilize the 10-point scale in our AP classes, our governor's school classes, our dual enrollment classes, and certainly our elementary and middle school children would not be harmed in any way. And this is certainly not any attempt to diminish what an A means and what a B means, because the rigor required to get an A and achieve a score of 90, it should be very rigorous. And the same thing, for a B or C. So it is something that our counselors wanted us to share with you, and if you had questions or concerns, and of course, this is not something we would do until the following school year. So we've got plenty of time to think about it, ask questions if there's additional information that you want me to gather. But I do think it has a tremendous amount of support, and some of the reasons that they've shared makes a lot of sense. And again, I think most divisions and certainly all of the higher ed centers have already moved to this, but wanted to share this with you tonight, let you begin to think about it, and certainly if you have questions or any additional information that you need, I'll be glad to provide you with that. But I wanted to start sharing it early on and give us plenty of time to answer any questions or concerns that you might have.
I hadn't thought about that. Really, what you were saying, though, I didn't realize some schools was using 10-point grading system. I can see that when the scholarships down when you just said that, because if you got a 95, you got a 3.5. Right. If you got a 94, you got a 3. It's a B. It's 3.0.
Yeah.
So that can make a big. Is that what colleges, I guess, are going on? Is it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not grades, but they're going on not numeric grades, but on letter grades
Right.
and averages.
That's
So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's on our transcripts.
That would affect scholarships and a lot of things.
And we've had parents call, and I think, Ms. Jett, even you've had some parents call, and you and I talked about it one day about, it's not about, having any less rigor in our classes. It's about, if I perform at this level and a student in Division B performs at that level, we should both be viewed similarly, but that's not the case.
No, with
now.
2 grading scales, we're going to have a different point average.
Right,
And it could only be 1 point difference on numerical grades.
right.
Yeah, something to think about.
So just think about that, and I will bring that back to you. And as I say, if there's any questions, and if you want to think about it a little bit, and anything else I need to provide you with, I'll certainly do so. But that has been something that the counselors have asked about for some time. And so I will bring that back, Mr. Chair, and at some point, if we choose to go that route, we could adopt it and then begin to prepare for the next school year.
Thank you, sir. A 94 is an A in our county.
Right.
You can go one county over.
Well, Mr.
It's a
93 is
B
B.
plus.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not
I
a-
misspoke there.
It takes 95 to be an A.
Yeah.
I definitely think it puts our students at a disadvantage when they get ready to enter college.
Mm-hmm. And we've heard that from a number of our schools, so.
Any other questions before we go on? Okay. Let's go to item 10.5, VHSL update.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I shared with you the VHSL document that will guide those activities that, as a matter of fact, winter sports season opened yesterday with basketball and cheer having their first official practices. Competitions begin on the 21st. And as I've shared with you previously, it's certainly will have a different look. 25 spectators are all that's allowed, and our ADs, our administrators have been working tirelessly to try to create an equitable way to make sure that parents and guardians, and, you know, one of the decisions that the governor's office, and I think working with the VDH, we got the information that cheerleaders are not considered participants. They're considered spectators. And so with some of our cheer squads having up to 15 cheerleaders, you know, they've been a valuable part of our sports programs for years and years. They add a lot of school spirit and a lot of, and they bring a lot to our contest. And so it really, and of course I've interacted with some individuals in the governor's office and the VHSL. The VDH is the one that was the source of information the governor's office used to make that determination. And they talked about the expressing, the loud cheering and you know, the particles that would be in the air. And so, long story short, they viewed them as spectators. But our schools, our 3 schools, and I think all of those in Mountain 7, have worked creatively to make sure that at least, you know, and I think at a couple of our schools it may be an A cheerleading squad, a B cheerleading squad, and they alternate. I think East Side's is a little bit different, and certainly on those senior nights it may look a little different. Some of these, you know, and so if a student was, for instance, was closing in on maybe 1,000 points in basketball, making sure that they can have their immediate family. So they're being creative, but they have arrived at situations where all of our cheerleaders are going to be involved at our events. It may just be not all of them on a given night. And so, you know, given the circumstances, that was probably the best we could hope for, to try to get them there, have them be a vital part of each game. It may just not be everyone on the same night. So my hat's off to those administrators for making that work. We met with the executive committee of the Virginia High School League a little over a week ago. Right now, there are some schools and school divisions in the Commonwealth that have decided, at least for now, not to participate. I think 89% of the schools in Virginia were continuing to move forward with VHSL activities, but there are some that certainly are not. And as the graphic I showed you a while ago, most in Region 7 are, but there are a handful of Region 7 schools that, at least until Christmas, are not going to be participating in VHSL activities. But if there's any changes, I will certainly keep you abreast of them, but that's where we are right now. There is a schedule out there. There are mitigation strategies in the rather thick document that I shared with you. I guess it was a couple of meetings ago, the guidelines for return to participation. Each sport, each school has responsibilities in terms of mitigation and what will occur during games, what will be allowed, what's not allowed. And so at this time, most in Virginia are moving forward, but that could certainly change, you know, based upon circumstances. So I just wanted to give you some information on where we were currently at in regard to VHSL activities.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board?
Who makes the determination when a game is going to be canceled or postponed? Is it going to be the home team, or is it going to be the home administration? If a team shows up and one is tested positive, does that mean that game goes on, or is it going to be canceled?
That would be, in my opinion, Mr. Short, that would be a cancellation. And I think that's the way everyone's viewing it, is that you could not play the game because of the transfer, or at least the contact tracing for the team that has the confirmed positive. I don't see how you could possibly have enough left to play a game. And I actually think that there's some information in that document about, and of course, Mountain 7, they have met, the Cumberland, the Black Diamond, all of those have met and said, this is what happens when you have a positive. Now, the one thing we have met, the three high school principals, ADs, Mr. Giles and myself has met with Dr. Potter about game day testing perhaps. And I think that's going to be available. I think 2 of our schools have worked that out, and the third is moving toward that, so that there is a surety that everyone that's going to be playing tonight is negative. And I think they're continuing. We're going to meet again with him. Of course, there's some logistical things that still need to be worked out, but I think that offers maybe an added measure of protection.
Does that include the away team? The away team?
Well, and as I say, when Mountain 7 met, they were all in the process of trying to get to that place where there would be game day testing. I don't know if they're all there yet. Of course, we've got till, I think the first contest was maybe around the 21st. And so they're continuing to work toward that end. I don't have confirmation that everybody has it yet, but I think everybody's working toward that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Hearing no more questions, let's go on to 10.6, technology virtual learning update. Dr. Mullins.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I will share with you that Mr. Kaiser was going to make a presentation about our technology program and where we were at, and he was not able to be with us tonight, and he's asked that if we could put that off. He wanted to share that, but was simply not going to be able to do that tonight.
Okay, sir. Then we'll proceed down to 10.8, VSBA Code of Conduct for school board members. Oh, I'm sorry. I checked the wrong one off here. I got ahead of myself. No, we're now on inclement weather virtual school closing codes. My apologies to you and the board.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, at our last meeting, I shared with you the inclement weather virtual school information, and the one thing that we failed to do, we actually had them with us that night, but we simply failed to share those with you. That's just the codes that we would use in the event that we would have a virtual instruction day. That details what everyone would do on a given day if we were able to have a virtual instructional day. So that those codes just allows you to know exactly what it is if we have this code or this code. And we just failed to give those to you last time, so I wanted to make sure that you had those in your hand.
Questions? Now, 10.8, VSBA Code of Conduct for school board members.
And I think, Mr. Chair, this is something that we have done each year for the past few years, is that the VSBA has just recommended that board members consider adopting that code and signing off on it, and has provided this to us for some time now.
In glancing through it, I didn't see any changes from what it currently is or what it was last time we adopted it, any major changes. That's certainly makes sense. Okay, 10.9, VSBA Code of Conduct for our school board clerks.
And again, this is the VSBA's recommended code of conduct for clerks, and they've asked that clerks consider signing that code of conduct, sort of outlining the types of behaviors that they feel like board clerks should exhibit.
Questions? 10.10, final item under discussion, organizational meeting, which will occur on Tuesday, January 12th.
And that will be the process that we've used previously, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There on page 6 is how that meeting will unfold, and it will be as it's been for since the past several years.
I'd like to remind the board, when you nominate someone, it does not require a second.
Right.
So,
That's the same night as the regular board meeting, isn't it?
yes, same night as a regular board meeting. I think what we've been doing in the past, we had the organizational meeting first, I think. Then we closed it, and then we reopened again right after that with a regular January meeting.
Right.
Okay, let's go down to, I think the board wants to go into closed session, so Mr. Bates, get your motion ready.
Okay.
So let's see. I guess we'll just go ahead and go and read the motion, please.
Pursuant to 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following specific matters: discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining or resignation of specific public officers, appointees or employees of a school board, which is authorized by 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia, consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of a school board, in consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the school board regarding specific legal matters requiring provision of legal advice by such counsel, which is authorized by 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia.
Thank you, sir. We have the motion to go into closed session. Is there a second?
So moved. Or I second, I guess.
Okay. And we have a second. So, those in favor of going into closed session, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Then, this board will go into closed session. Is there a motion to re-enter regular session?
So moved.
That's Mark. And is there a second?
Second.
I don't know who got that one. I'll give that one to you, okay. Okay, that's pretty fast on this. Okay, those in favor of re-entering, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And Mrs. Durham, you want to read us in, please?
Whereas the Wise County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this day pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas 2.2-3712, Section D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wise County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Please vote. Ms. Kern?
Yes.
Dr. Raymond?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Jett? Yes. Mr. Short?
Yes.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Bay?
Yes.
Mr. Britt?
Yes. Let's go back up to item number 11, action. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendations for employment?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. Let me get this down here. Y'all talk faster than I can write. Okay. Those in favor of accepting the superintendent's employment recommendations as presented, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. And any general information? Okay. Item 14, new items. Just remember that the January 12th is the next regular scheduled board meeting. And, you know, a lot of things can change between now and then. So, Dr. Mullins, I know that you're going to be monitoring conditions for us and make appropriate contacts and information if as needed. Thank you, sir. Let's go to board comments. Let's see. Vicki? Okay, Vicki says no comment. Martha?
Once again, I just want to brag on our schools for doing such a good job and trying to keep everybody safe. I think they've done a remarkable job, and also just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Herb?
Well, I want to wish all of our central office staff, our teachers, administrators at all of our schools, and fellow board members a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and see you in 2021.
John?
No comment.
Denise?
I just want to wish everyone a safe and merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Mark?
I'm with Martha, glad to see our school systems getting back in order after a while. I'm really glad to see sports starting back too. Merry Christmas.
Philip?
Just Merry Christmas to all the staff and have a safe Christmas.
And I'll express my thanks to central office staff, Dr. Mullins, for shepherding us through these trying times. And I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you on January the 12th. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.